Vinnie Sunseri, I hope you're doing well, man. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Hey, appreciate you for having me on, guys. Excited to talk about this rivalry between Alabama and the Tennessee Volunteers.
No doubt, no doubt. And man, we have been pumped up all week, but you know, there's a lot of dislike here from these Alabama fans. I've heard this word. I hate Tennessee. I hate Orange. I hate Philip Fulmer. I hate Neyland Stadium. We've heard a lot of hate this week in Tuscaloosa, Vinny.
Hey, you know, and the thing that I've realized is that a lot of the hate are from the older guys, the older fans, the older people that when Tennessee was good, when Tennessee was a powerhouse, when Alabama versus Tennessee was a big rivalry, that those are the guys, those are the people that have a lot of voice in this rivalry. The younger generation hasn't really seen Tennessee do anything, so we're trying to, and I hope Tennessee has an opportunity to try and bring back this rivalry and make it more competitive. But as you said earlier in the show, that, I mean, Tennessee just hasn't been able to compete since Coach Saban's been there.
No, and I mean, think about it. 4,382 days. I mean, think about that. I mean, we're talking about there's never been a Tennessee fan that tweeted a win or posted a Facebook message over the University of Alabama. I mean, that's just that sounds so crazy, but it's true. It's never happened. I mean, there's never been a Tennessee tweet out there, hey, we beat Alabama today, because there wasn't Twitter or Facebook then.
I mean, that's a crazy statement and a crazy fact, because when you really think about Tennessee, you think about Peyton Manning, you think Eric Berry, you think Jason Witten, you think of all these high-profile guys that had 10-plus years in the NFL, who had a lot of success at Tennessee, who created this rivalry between Tennessee and Alabama, and a lot of people want it to come back. I mean, every year Alabama's smoking a cigar after they play Tennessee, and it's almost turning into one of those games where everybody's not even really paying attention. It's kind of like, check it off already. Alabama's going to go in and they're going to roll. So I think Jeremy Pruitt has his work cut out for him this year. I think Tennessee is not there yet. I think Alabama is the favorite for a reason. They have an offense that has a lot of firepower. Their defense is playing well, and I just don't think Tennessee's done enough or shown enough for Alabama to even consider them a competition.
You know, one of the questions that came up maybe about 20 minutes ago on the show was talking about Jeremy Pruitt and how you think that he will attack Tua Tagovailoa. Certainly, we have a lot of respect for Jeremy Pruitt, and I know you do as well. How do you think he's going to go after Tua Tagovailoa?
You know, I think he's going to do a lot of different things. I think he's going to show him different looks in coverage that he hasn't seen before. I think he's going to try and confuse Tua. I think he's going to try and disguise as much as he can. And I think he's going to bring pressure, which you have to do, and you have to try and create some type of opportunity for your defense and try and trap Tua into throwing you something, creating some type of turnover, because if you don't, it's going to be 4 or 5 plays and they're going to score touchdowns. It's just how explosive this Alabama offense is. Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Tua, these running backs, these tight ends. I mean, they have weapons all over the field. And this Alabama defense is too explosive for you to sit back and say, we're going to wait for them to make a mistake. They're not going to make a mistake. You have to go in there and force their hand and make them make mistakes. And if you do that and you can create turnovers and get the atmosphere on your side in Neyland Stadium, then you have a chance of competing against Alabama. That's the only chance that you can create for yourself.
Is there an advantage with so many coaches? You look at Chris Winkie, he's part of there. Kevin Scherer was a part of here, and I believe he was here when you were here. Am I correct about that? Did I miss a year?
Kevin Scherer was there. He's a great coach. He's a great person. He's a great mentor. And I mean, I think I know what you're going to ask. Does it create an opportunity when you have such a familiarity between coaching staffs? And I think there is. I think there's opportunities on both sides of the ball. Coach Saban mentored Jeremy Pruitt. So that's a huge advantage for Coach Saban, because so he knows exactly what Jeremy's thinking, how he's going to approach a game, how he likes to call a defense. But it also works vice versa, because Jeremy Pruitt, in a sense, kind of mentored Tosh Lupoy. So he understands how Tosh is going to call this game, understands how he's going to attack offenses, how he tries to game plan offenses. And I think there's a lot of similarities. The only difference is I think Alabama has the talent level over Tennessee, which is a big, big plus in Alabama's favor whenever you think about how this game's going to turn out.
Vinny, how helpful is it to Alabama and Nick Saban with the coaches of making sure, because you don't really need anything for Tennessee, But with Tennessee's victory over Auburn on the road and, upsetting a top 25 team, does that help Coach Saban get his message across this week?
I think I said it earlier in the show, either this week or last week. Momentum drives college football, and with them winning at Auburn, Tennessee has a little momentum going into this football game. And Alabama and the Alabama players and the Alabama coaching staff definitely knows that they went into Auburn and got a big win and got Jeremy Pruitt's first SEC win at Tennessee. So I think all these guys saw that. I think Coach Saban has relayed that message, and I think he understands that this could be a trap game for Alabama. They go into a bye week, and then they go into LSU, which everybody's saying LSU is the game of the year, kind of like the game of the century back in 2011. But you can't overlook competition, because whenever we have in the past, ULL and Arkansas, our defense didn't play well. Our offense had mistakes. We weren't able to run the football. Our offensive line wasn't doing what they're supposed to do. And, you go out there and you play down to your competition level. And if you want to be a championship caliber team and keep growing each week, you have to go out and handle your business. And that's what this game is. It's a business trip up to Tennessee.
Vinny, take us in that locker room post-game after a victory, and you've been a part of a lot of victories over the Tennessee Volunteers. Take us in that locker room with that tradition of the cigar and celebration. What's it like inside that locker room?
I mean, it's just complete camaraderie after the game. You go in, you celebrate with your coaching staff, you celebrate with your teammates, and you celebrate with the fans, because even the fans are smoking cigars after the game. And it's something special, because it's something that they've been doing since, I think, in the 60s when Paul Bear Bryant was there. And it's something special because it connects you to generations of players. It connects me with Jay Barker whenever he was at Alabama and he had victories over Tennessee, because he was doing the exact same thing then as I'm doing now. And it connects me to the players right now, and vice versa to players back when Paul Bear Bryant was there. And it's special. It's fun. You're in the locker room. You're smoking. Everybody's having a good time. And it's just like one of those moments where you kind of can sit back, and the 24-hour rule applies in that time frame, and you can just kind of sit there and look at Coach Saban, and he smiles, and you smile back at him. You think, all that work that we put in this week paid off. We're smoking cigars, and now we're relaxing. But after this 24 hours, let's move on to the next one, which is LSU, which is the game of the year, which is what everybody's looking forward to. But you have to get through this one first.
Vinny, let me go back here when you talk about that cigar, because we had a player here from the 70s, and it's kind of funny that you said it the way that you did, because he said the same exact thing. I mean, he was talking about it. He never lost to Tennessee, and he said people will ask you always, what's your record against Tennessee? What's your record against Auburn? And how many national titles did you win? He won 2. You won 2 here at the University of Alabama. But you talk about the cigar smoke. He said the same thing. It's like something that it's a fraternity of Alabama players from 1960s, early 1960s, all the way to current day. It's just a tradition that is unique. It's unlike anything else in college football.
I think that's the one thing that's special about sports, is that it connects generations of players, generations of Tennessee players, generation of Auburn players, generations of Alabama players. And then you can go to the NFL, where it connects people from generations in the NFL. And I think that's why sports and football is such a special thing, because there are traditions that last the test of time. And whenever you're able to do that and have fun and look back and see Joe Namath smoking a cigar, I mean, you're literally living history whenever you're doing it yourself. So it's a special moment, and it's a special thing that we get to do at the University of Alabama, and we're going to do it again on Saturday.
I like it, Vinny. All right, so how would you use Tua Tagovailoa? Nick Saban says that he's better this week than he was last week. With that being said, knowing that this game should be an easy victory for Alabama, but you got to go up and still play the game. It's not played on paper. How would you handle Tua Tagovailoa if you were Coach Saban?
Coach Saban knows him better than everybody else, and he knows these players better than everybody else. So he knows how to push them and how to use them. I think you go into this game like every other game, and you present him with the game plan, and you present him as a starter, and you allow him to go out there and see how he feels. If he goes out there and he feels good and he's playing well, then you allow him to have success and get comfortable and get timing down with his wide receivers and running backs, because if he doesn't play, you're now letting him sit 2 weeks, and he's going to go into LSU rusty. So you have to allow him to go into the game and get some type of chemistry with these wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, so that he feels comfortable in 2 weeks to go into Tiger Stadium at night and play a big-time game. So I think you approach it like every other game, and whenever the game's out of hand, like there's a possibility that it might be, you allow Jalen Hurts to come in and you allow Tua to rest. But until that point, you have to go into this game like every other game and keep him on a consistent basis and keep him on a consistent schedule.
Vinny, when you go back to these rival games, did you get extra charged up for these games? I mean, did you have to kind of control a little bit of your emotions, or was that ever a problem for you?
Oh, these games are always fun. These are SEC games. You're going into a place where Peyton Manning played. You're going into a place where they won a lot of games, where there's a lot of history on the field, where there has been close games. And Neyland Stadium's always a great atmosphere, and there's always 100,000 people in the stands, and they're always, I say it all the time, we're the 96 Bulls. We are Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman going into a basketball arena, and everybody's saying, we want to beat this team. This is our Super Bowl. And whenever you go into an atmosphere like that, you can't help but get juiced up. And I think there's going to be a lot of emotion on the field, and I think you'll see that on Saturday.
All right, Vinny, you told us that you like to the Italian family always likes to talk a little bit of smack. Have you talked any smack with your older brother? Older brother, younger brother? That's in Tennessee. Older brother, right?
He's my older brother. Yeah.
All right. So any smack in the Italian family this week?
No. The real smack talk has been my dad. He heard me talking earlier in the week when I was saying Alabama or LSU is going to come out of the SEC. So that was the smack talk this week so far, is him saying that he's coming after Georgia. He's ready to come and win an SEC championship at Florida. But me and my brother have just been talking about trying to talk about other things besides football, because it is a stressful week. It is a stressful time because, I mean, this is his job. He's trying to go out there and he's trying to prove himself in the coaching world, and Jeremy Pruitt's trying to prove himself. So I haven't talked to him too much about football. I wish him the best, but, roll tide till I die.
No doubt. All right, Vinny, let's stop here and we'll come back. We'll talk about some of the SEC games on the other side. Let's talk about this first segment sponsor, always presented by Rounders.
Rounders is across the street from Publix on the Strip, with their 11 by 17-foot big screen TV, over 50 varieties of beer, and 30-plus TVs. Rounders is the place to be on game day. After the game, celebrate with a great view of Bryant-Denny Stadium on the rooftop, live music downstairs, and their Vegas-inspired Boom Boom Room. Keep up the party on Twitter and Instagram at RoundersUA or at Rounders Bar on Snapchat.
No doubt. All right, let's spend a little time here talking with our second segment and go through some of these SEC games. Auburn tries to pick up the pieces after losing in Tennessee. They're going to travel to Ole Miss tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the morning, ESPN game. Your thoughts on Auburn and Ole Miss?
I think this is a make or break for Gus Malzahn. I said it earlier in the week, and I say it again. If he goes into Ole Miss and they do not win this football game, I think it is the beginning of the end for Gus Malzahn, and I think Auburn starts looking for a head coach, especially since I don't see them beating Alabama, and I don't see them beating Georgia. So I think this is one of those defining moments for Gus Malzahn and this Auburn Tiger and his stint at Auburn. They lose this game, I say he's fired before the Alabama game.
Oh, wow. Okay, so a lot of pressure trying to pick up the pieces. And you've never been a part of a locker room because you guys have never been put in this situation, but I just wonder what it's like with a lot of finger pointing going on. I mean, it was finger pointing last week, and it even has to be even more so this week. I mean, with inside that locker room at Auburn.
I was never in a locker room where we pointed fingers in college, but whenever I was at the San Francisco 49ers, it was when a lot of animosity was going on and we weren't having a lot of success. And whenever you're in those kind of locker rooms and people are picking sides and people are pointing fingers and saying it's your fault, no, it's your fault, it's a toxic environment, and it's almost like quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink, because even though you're trying to do everything right, everything just happens to go in the opposite favor. And it's just one of those years for Auburn so far. They just can't find their stride. They can't find success, and they just can't get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. And Gus Malzahn is an offensive guru per se. And whenever you are an offensive guru and you're not living up to that expectations and you're not winning football games, you get on the hot seat real quick.
Mississippi State traveling to LSU. Thoughts on the game there in Baton Rouge?
I think this is a trap game. I think LSU has everything to lose, and Mississippi State has everything to win. LSU has everything to go for them. They upset Georgia. That was the big game. If you remember, when we went into LSU in 2012, we went in there, we had a big win, and then we came back and we played Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel. And Texas A&M came in, and this was their Super Bowl, and they wanted to beat us, and we weren't up for it, and we had a little bit of a letdown game, and they were able to come in and upset us. So I think this is one of those games where you have to come in and expect Mississippi State to give you everything they have because they have nothing to lose. This is the big game for them, and LSU has to come in and win this football game to make it a big game in 2 weeks against Alabama.
Clemson-NC State is a top 20 matchup tomorrow. We've got a couple of them that I want to ask you about outside of the SEC. It's a 2:30 game. We're not going to be keeping too much of our eyes on that one, but NC State traveling down to Clemson, South Carolina to take on the Tigers.
I actually think this is going to be one of those games like I thought against Syracuse. I think this is a game where NC State can possibly upset these Clemson Tigers. They have a good defense. They have a great offense. They're putting up a lot of yards. They're putting up a lot of points, and I think they can compete offensively with this Clemson Tiger football team. And I think they have the ability, and I think they have the talent and the size to stop the running attack for Clemson and force Trevor Lawrence to beat them with his arm. And I think this is going to be one of those games where it comes down to the fourth quarter and possibly a game-winning drive for Clemson or NC State.
Let me also stay in the outside of the conference. Number 6, Michigan, taking on Michigan State here in East Lansing.
This was my game that I was highlighting all week because this is Jim Harbaugh's first game of the season, which can put him on the hot seat. You go to Michigan to win 3 games. You got to win Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State. So this is the first test. They already lost to Notre Dame, which has always been a rivalry game, and that's a check mark in the hot seat column. So Michigan State's 4-0 in their conference. They're going to go into Michigan's going into East Lansing. So I think it's going to be one of those games where if Michigan loses, you can find yourself dropping fast in the poll, and Jim Harbaugh can find himself on the hot seat very fast.
Vinny, I'm going to give you the flexibility to go anywhere you want to go in college football. You can come back to the SEC or you can stay outside of the league. Anything else grab you in college football that you're going to be keeping your eye on? This
Oklahoma TCU game, everybody's kind of looking past it real quick, but Oklahoma has to go to TCU. They're coming off a bye week. They had a big loss. I think TCU might be able to give them a little bit of headache. TCU is always able to score a lot of points, and they always have a good game against Oklahoma. So I think if TCU can create some uncomfortability for Kyler Murray and force him into a couple bad situations, you can find yourself in a football game. Although I do think Oklahoma comes in and they have a lot of success and they win the game.
We have got a super new place that's being built right on the fringe of the campus of the University of Alabama. It's right off Hackberry, very close to the practice facility, Bryant-Denny Stadium, just a couple of blocks away, Coleman Coliseum, and just the heart of campus, Camellia Place. Tell us about those great amenities at Camellia Place.
With gorgeous New York-inspired and styled amenities, great locations being steps away from Coleman Coliseum and Bryant-Denny Stadium, developed by the same builder, Kenny Short, who built the Chimes and Champions Place in the heart of Tuscaloosa. Check out Camellia Place at www.camelliaplace.com, and you'll find yourself at the spot for Tuscaloosa game day luxury living. And if you can get an opportunity to walk through, I think you should do it because it's a beautiful place. It's beautifully designed, and it's the best location for Alabama football and basketball.
All right. Nick Saban is currently loading that plane and headed to Knoxville, so he's not going to be able to hear this. Vinny, have you already bought your cigar for tomorrow?
I already have my cigar, and I actually might light it tonight for a little victory smoke before the game's even played because I think it's going to be one of those games that in the fourth quarter, Tua is hanging out on the sidelines, and all the Alabama fans are actually switching the channels and trying to find a good game on TV.
So you really think it's a blowout? You think it's going to be a blowout game?
I think so. I just don't think Tennessee has enough yet. I think they're going in the right direction, and I think they have the coaching staff and the people behind them to do it. But I think they're a couple years away from competing with this Nick Saban Crimson Tide football team.
Vinny, as always, man, I thank you so much. This segment made possible by Camellia Place as Vinny talks about those guys and the luxury living there off of Hackberry Avenue here in Tuscaloosa. Vinny, as always, thank you again for being a part of the show. Have an amazing week. We'll talk to you Monday. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys, and Roll Tide.